Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome back, and welcome to the best long-term storage solution. Well, sorry to tell you, but there's no best solution here. There are certain things to definitely not do it with though, okay? First of all, USB flash drive. Even in a 256 size or bigger, I haven't checked recently to see how big they are now, but I nearly went, holy cow, 256? Like, when they came out, I was like, wicked! That's pretty cool. But they're slow, and they run really flippin' hot. Especially when you're trying to write a large file to them. Yeah, I literally cooked one trying to do it. And reading from it to go the other direction, yeah, same problem. But not quite as bad, though. It was borderline, but it still burnt the fingers taking it out, but at least that survived on reading only. But writing to it, yeah, it fried the poor thing. And that was a 64 gigger that I actually paid a lot of money for. Well, because at the time they weren't cheap for 64 gigs, right? But anyways, so not a good solution for the long haul at all. Short term, yeah, quick and dirty stuff, yeah, but they're also not that quick either. So they're not much better than a hard drive, to be honest. And speaking of hard drives, there is a laptop style hard drive in here, not an SSD, an actual hard drive, okay? You drop these things even in the case, they're going to shatter the platters inside, or it's going to bust the heads, or the heads are going to jam, go tick, 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 tick. Yeah, which they can go tick, 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 even if they're worn out. They don't even have the lifespan capability of a real hard drive like this puppy. These are built for the long haul. These are built for decades of use. Okay, but there are some unfortunate side effects either way to hard drives. Yeah, either one, don't drop them on a hard surface. This can only go either internal or into an external powered case, which, because it chews up 17 volts worth of juice. You're not going to get that out of your USB port. Alright, so with this thing here, this is going to only chew up 5 volts. Now, hard drives, notoriously, generally don't even chew up an amp worth of juice. They're very low milliamp draw, which is kind of nice, but part of that is they're also sluggy for accessing, for reading and writing. Even though the drive platters are spinning between 54 to 7200 RPMs, yeah, it's still slow, right? This also gets really super hot compared to this on same size files, right? But you can also get much larger storage capacities in this style than you can in the laptop style. So there is differences, and there's pros and cons to all of it, right? But dropping them is not a good plan because you will wreck them like boom. You know, I did a shaky shake test on my channel and they survived that all right. But physical drop, I've done it, and the platters in this were turned to gore and dust, and same as with this. The laptop style drives didn't even take as much of a drop, and yeah, gore and dust. Like, all you heard was like sound like sand rocking around inside. The platters were destroyed. So yeah, not very good impact resistance here, okay? Anyhow, so, but between the two of them, I would trust this one for longer term storage, although slower. But it does chew a lot of voltage. So that means either internal use or an external case. But you can easily get these into 18 terabyte as well, which is pretty cool for under 500 bucks. Just an 8 terabyte alone for an NVMe drive is going to set you back over $1,000. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like, oh my goodness. Still cheaper than Apple's solution for 8 terabyte internal, but, I mean, come on. That's expensive. Anyhow, so good solution, long haul, but only if you treat them with kid gloves and you keep magnets away from them. Then hard drives are definitely a really great solution. And they can handle a lot more read-write cycles, or write cycles, because that's what the problem is, than what even SSDs can still currently handle. Okay? So that's kind of a nice benefit that way. However, into the SSD world, we basically have two types of systems. We have build your own or pre-built from the factory. Now, pre-built from the factory is not going to allow us to take this apart and change the internal drive should it go down. And we cannot increase the drive space either way, so, and this was $160 for 1 terabyte. And it's rated at like 1050 read and write, and it comes, you know, it's close. It's like 900 and change. It's pretty good that way. On the Mac OS, most of us use a program called Blackmagic Speed Test, and it reports usually close to that 900 range, where Windows is more closer to 1000 range for the reporting. It's the programs and the way they're done. But anyways, either way, it's always an up to rating. It doesn't mean it's going to get to that speed. In very ideal conditions, yes it can, but it's still not always going to be. And sometimes they do run over speed. I've seen that happen. But this is a waste of money at $160 for a terabyte when I can build my own for less money. Okay? And I get the other option. This particular Sabrent case, apparently according to Sabrent on the write-up, on the spec sheet that they give us for a bunch of these Sabrent cases, apparently this one can handle up to 8 terabyte. Now, that's fantastic. 8 terabyte is still expensive, but this is a 1 terabyte 3500 by 3000. Now, drawback here is this is USB 3.2. Okay, this is not Thunderbolt. It plugs into a Thunderbolt port because the ports are the same as far as the connector head goes, but internal wiring and other things are definitely different between, you know, Type C 3.2 and Thunderbolt. Okay. And this, even plugged into a Thunderbolt port, is going to run the same speeds as it is in a 3.2 port. It's going to be exactly the same speed. However, this, you can just push a button, open it up, flick the key back, take it out, dump in a bigger one, or whatever. It's your choice. But you build your own, you can build it cheap, right? That's the big thing. Under $100 for the drive. Now, this drive will run close to, if not over spec, depending on the computer you plug it into, you know, laptop, desktop, version of bus, etc. for the Express. But into these cases, when you're not running this into a Thunderbolt case, you're not going to see any better than 1000 read-write, no matter how fast the drive is. Okay, this could be like a 10,000 megabyte per second drive. It's still only going to run at 1000. But part of that problem is not just because of the 3.2 bus lanes. It's also, in none of these drives are you ever going to be able to feed them the amperage they want. Even Thunderbolt external, Thunderbolt, you're not feeding these drives the amperage that they really truly want to run cooler and better with. These things will still run hot, which is why you either need a fan cool case with or without a heatsink pad. But this, there's a pad that comes built into this case, which is the bottom one here. And then this one here was one I added in, where I actually laid it on here and then it compressed down, and it still does. So it touches it properly and it'll cool. And it does work, but not all the cheap pads on the market actually work. And this one came, actually, I had 2 of these, one for each case. It came with my Intamin Thunderbolt cases, and I'm not even using pads on those drives, and they're fine for temperature. So do you really need to run the pad? Well, that's a yes or no. It depends on the situation and what exactly you're doing, if you're going to need it or not. But so far, no, I haven't had the requirement, but I've been guinea pigging with this system to see what the differences are. And yep, adding this extra pad in here for thickness allowed it to touch, and it does change it by a couple of degrees. It's nothing to write home about how much difference there is in the pad, okay? Anyhow, but this is cheap. This is far cheaper than doing this, because even this case here currently sells on Amazon for $40. And you're talking about $80-90 for the drive that's sitting in here. Speed is overkill, but I mean, it's what it is, okay? But your speed that you're going to get out of this drive, like I said, it's only going to be tops 1000 read and write. But it's a durable case too, which is nice. It's very thick aluminum. It's very thin too, so it can fit into smaller places better than this bulky thing can. And that was $160. You know, this is like, what, let's say 80, $120, you know, in comparison. That's like $30 in tax savings. So, and I got the same size, but I actually got a faster drive in here too. So, not that it helps, but either way, I can take the drive out of this, slap in a bigger drive, take the drive in this, go throw it in a laptop if I want, and get the real good speeds out of it too. Or throw it into a desktop with a NVMe bus. The other thing about this case too is it will also support the B&M key. This is an M.2, which is your standard NVMe stuff. It also supports the B&M key, which means you'll have 3 keys across. End one here, end one on this side, and then the middle. On an M.2, it's only a 2-key system, the mini key and then the larger key. So, but this case will support either one, and different lengths of them too as well. So if you want to use shorter ones, you can if you want. It's kind of up to you on that one, but I like the toolless part of this case. It's so nice, just literally toolless. Anyhow, so my solution is this. There is no best solution overall. However, when it comes to the difference between a hard drive and an SSD, in all honesty, I will take the SSD because no moving parts, magnetism does not matter. You can sit a 500-pound magnet on this thing. You're not going to wipe out the data. You're not even going to scramble it, right? Because these drives are not subject to magnetic fields that way. Where hard drives, yeah, magnet gets within a couple inches, it starts to scramble stuff. Touch the magnet, kiss it goodbye. It is done. You know, good luck unscrambling the data, if it could even be done. But that's the differences, right? I mean, you're still going to get a ton of years out of this, but oh so slow. Reading or writing, oh so slow. Bulky too, don't forget. This thing, that weighs a couple of pounds, you know. This thing weighs like a matter of ounces, you know. This chews up 17 volts, less than an amp. Well, this thing is going to suck all the 900 milliamps out of your Type-C port or Thunderbolt port. Yeah, it really wants a couple of amps worth of juice, really. So better used in internal use than external. But at least 900 milliamps, these drives will function quite well. But they will run hotter as an external unit. They always will, over being used as an internal situation. But at least this gives you the choice. This, you can't use it internal at all. It can only be used external. It's a pre-built. And it actually costs more than to build your own. So it's like, I'd rather build my own because then I get to pick and choose from whatever size I want. The prices are very inexpensive when you build your own in comparison to a factory built thing like this that doesn't come apart. Except in little bits and pieces and bent metal and plastic and yeah, shattered parts and it's destroyed. Anyway, but I think for me I'd rather go with the SSD. And but SSDs, just remember with SSDs, the smaller the storage space, the less the write cycles. So that does affect longevity over the years too. The bigger you go, the better it's going to be as far as longevity goes. That's a big thing because more write cycles accessible. But it's all on how you use your stuff too, which way is really the better way to go in the end. I'm sure you could get far more write cycles on a hard drive than you ever will on an SSD, but that's going to change, and it is changing rapidly. And these are going out of style too. I mean, there's not that many choices of actual hard drives on the market anymore. It's all SSD, NVMe, right? And so there's not a lot of selection left for the HDD world anymore. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things you got to think about too, right? What's going to happen in 10 years? Probably in 10 years we'll never even see these exist anymore. So, but that's the way it goes. That's my opinion, my thoughts and feelings about it. I'm pro SSD in this case. I like the speed access points, even at 1,000 megabits per second. That is still really good for file transfer speeds. It's good for a lot of stuff. Great for long-term storage too. I've not had any issues for long-term storage. But build your own. Do not buy pre-built ones from companies like Western Digital or Samsung or whoever because you can't service them yourself. That's the problem. They're fixed, they're built. You're going to have to destroy them to get them apart. You know what I mean? And so no upgrade pass at all. This far cheaper, far better. Upgrade it all you want, but buy a quality external case. I've had cheaper cases, and believe me, the cases, those controllers aren't very good. They didn't last very long. I did have some issues. The Sabrent so far has taken the most beating, the most drops, because I'm butterfingers at times. They're very narrow, which is nice. I really like that. Heavy duty metal and 100% toolless. Anybody literally can put one of these drives together in a toolless enclosure of any kind that's 100% toolless in a matter of seconds. You know, I mean, you don't have to know electronics to plug a freaking drive in or to open the case and plug it in and close the case. You don't have to be an expert at this, right? And even if the case does have some screws, it's not that hard to use a screwdriver, folks. It's really easy. Anybody can do it. So, yeah, and then you get a better quality unit in the long haul building your own setup. And there are programs that can help you to find out how your lifespan of your drive is also doing as well. They have them on Mac, they have them on the Windows world too. Tells you your drive health statistics, information about your drive, so that you get the whole gist of how things are going with it. You know, so there's a lot of benefits here. But I will say this on a final note, there is nothing in life that is guaranteed to last anywhere on the long haul for years or decades or whatever, okay? Electronics is just that. It can die at any time, but there are some solutions that are far better than others, okay? The big drawback here is simply, if this just dies of a mechanical failure of the motor spindle or the head motor or the controller board, these platters can be removed and put into another drive unit that is compatible to work with all those parts, and you're back up and running, okay? If this goes down, it's down for good. I don't know of anyone yet who has ever recovered a dead SSD drive when it's gone down, because it's just chips. So, you know, recovering the data is, I would say at this point, I'm not going to say impossible, because nothing is, but it's near impossible as far as I know. Because like I said, I don't know anybody who's ever successfully done it yet and still having the data all be intact and usable. Then again, when you recover these drives, sometimes a lot of stuff isn't usable either, but at least some of the stuff is. Especially in an accidental format, you can still recover the drives on these really easy, where these things seem to be just gonzoed and that's it. But anyway, there you go, there you have it. That's my thoughts and feelings and my opinions. Take it for what it's worth. Make your own decision on what you want to go with. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.